Welcome to Femme Parler Podcast, where we are unpacking opinions and changing destinations. I am your host, Shirley Altador, where each week we will chat about how to rise strong out of all types of obstacles that come with relationships. Through personal life experiences and discussions ranging from infidelity, trust, forgiveness, sex, heartbreak, self-love, and so much more. I am passionate and obsessed to provide guidance to every woman to create a better life. Let's dive in, pull up a seat, make sure you're cozy, and get ready to be challenged and encouraged while you learn. With me, your virtual girlfriend. Welcome back to Femme Parler, part 2 with Michelle, because part 1 was super duper interesting, and I had to continue this with this woman. So we are still in season 3, Sex in the Relationship, and we had a lot to talk about in part 1, and part 2 is going to be even more interesting as Michelle tells us how she ended up with, she left one best friend for the other best friend. So Michelle, please enlighten us. How did this go down?
So I have to start by saying that my ex-husband is the nicest guy I have ever known in my life. And I have a lot of love and a lot of time for him. And I'm not trying to diss my ex-husband. He's an amazing guy. He just wasn't the right amazing guy for me.
I'm assuming all three of you are still friends?
Mm-hmm.
So you telling me they still best friends?
Oh, yeah. Not best friends, but they're still friends.
Okay. Go ahead.
And so my husband and I, he was English and I'm American, obviously. And we met and we really liked each other. And the only way that we could really have a relationship was to get married. And we were like, I'm in love. You're all right. Let's do this.
You're all right? No,
you know
didn't.
What I mean? But we knew we were in love.
Okay.
And we would not, if we were on the same continent and able to live in the same country without being married, we would never have gotten married.
That's what we're going to talk about again. Okay, go ahead, finish. Girl, you always adding interesting topics. Keep on going.
But it wasn't because we weren't in love. It was just because it was so new, Shirley, that we wouldn't have been we weren't ready to get married.
Okay.
Right? But we had to rush it because it was the only way we could be in the same place and both have a job and all that. So we got married, and right after we got married, we had a housewarming and a birthday party, all in one, for my ex-husband at our apartment in England. And all of his friends came and they were awkward and weird. And then his best friend from work shows up, and my husband, and he was this enormous guy, 6'4", 320 pounds, built like a defensive lineman, right? Enormous guy. And comes in with this awkward look on his face, clearly not used to growing up parties, with this cheap ass bottle of wine, trying to hand it to me all awkward, right? I reached out to take that bottle of wine from him. And I swear, I am not this woo-woo kind of gal, but I swear to God, my soul chimed when I touched him. And my first thought was, oh shit, I'm married. And then they introduced me. And he was like, oh, this is my friend Giles, and blah, 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 blah. And I didn't know anything about this man, but my soul knew the moment I saw him that was what I was supposed to do. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. That's not a thing. And so I just tried to ignore it. And we spent 4 years with me trying to make my marriage to my first husband work, and me trying to ignore how I felt about Giles. And he felt apparently the same way. And he spent the same time trying to ignore how he felt about it. And then towards the end, my husband and I were having problems.
Mhm.
And I said, "Look, I don't know if I hate being married to you or if I just really hate living in England. So maybe we should try not living in England and see if that fixes things."
Okay.
So we got a job and he got a job in the US and we were preparing to immigrate and he had to move over before I could move over. So there was like a couple of months where he was in California working and I was still in the UK. And during that time, his best friend was there to help me with transition and all of the stuff. And we just got closer and closer. And I realized that I just couldn't do it anymore. And it wasn't even like I need to be with this man as much as it was if I am really feeling this kind of way, I need to not be with my husband. Like it's not just geography. It is actually him. And so we got over to California and I was like, "Hey, good news, bad news." We're here. Yay. And you love California. Bad news. I don't want to be married anymore. And he was like, "Oh, that really makes me sad." And my ex-husband is just not like he always says that I am more passionate about ice cream flavor than he is about anything in his life. And he's just super mellow and super low key about everything. So literally when I told him like, I don't think this is going to work for me. Bye, Felicia. He was like, "Oh, okay. That's a real bummer." And my parents were like, "Don't worry. We're not going to kick you out. You can keep staying here. It's fine." And then like a few weeks later, his friend called and he was like, "Look, I've really thought about it. I just need you to come home. And then I need you to never leave me again." Um,
Ex-husband said
no,
that.
no, this is no, this is what so I was still there with ex-husband. New husband,
Okay.
called and
Okay.
said, "I need you to come home, like, come home to England, and then I need you to never leave me again."
I have to interject.
Mhm.
Platonic the whole time with husband presently? Would you rather not?
I No, I mean, I'm trying to think about how to answer that. No. I would say no, for sure.
Okay. So was it towards the end it
Yeah.
started to get
Yeah, yeah,
more
yeah. He had a
romantic?
girlfriend.
Okay.
No. We did our very best, but when you're hurting and upset and you're leading, like where is the line for platonic and romance? Do you know what I mean? Like it's just not
Gotcha. So,
I wouldn't want my husband acting with another woman the way that I was acting with him. So I would definitely say it was over the line.
okay. So
So
when you had went to your ex-husband and say, "Hey, listen, good news, bad news.
mhm.
We're in California. Great, but I don't want to be with you anymore." Were you already sleeping with husband at that moment in time?
Well, no, because I was in California and he was in England, so
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So
yeah,
now,
no, it was and actually my now husband it's easier to just use his name. So when, my now husband's name is Giles, my ex-husband is Phil.
okay.
So, before I went to California with Phil, Giles and I talked about our feelings and, like, where we were, and he said, "Look, you can't leave Phil for me. I won't be that guy. If you wanna leave your husband, you need to just decide you're gonna leave your husband, and then we can have after you've made that decision, then we can talk about something else.
Got it.
But
Got it.
I'm not gonna be the guy that you left him for."
Got it. Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't like that answer at the time, Shirley, but I really respected it, and I know that even then I knew it was the right one. So, I was there, and like I said, he called and he said, "You need to come home, and then you need to never leave me again." And I went to I went to Phil and I said, "Hey, so here's the thing. In addition to getting divorced, I'm also gonna be moving back to England, and I'm gonna be with Giles now. And my ex-husband looked at me and he kind of, I think he
Looked
blinked
at you?
twice.
Y'all was in the same room? You wasn't
Oh
scared
yeah,
of
we were
being
both.
stabbed?
No. We were both living with my parents.
Oh, okay.
And so he looked at me and he blinked and he went, "Yeah, that makes a lot of sense."
The
That was all he has ever
freaking
said about it.
maturity here between the three of you is like next level shit. Because you know,
Yeah.
if the three of you weren't as mature, especially the men,
Mm.
you know what I'm saying? I wonder if women would be this mature.
I mean, like, don't get me wrong, like, it broke my heart, right? Because every woman wants to feel like you are worth fighting for. And so it really hurt me that he was that mature about it. I wanted him to be like, "No man shall have you but me, for you are too fabulous." And he's just not
Exactly.
that guy.
But exactly.
And
You hear what you're saying though, Michelle?
mm,
Even though you were in the middle of these two guys, you were still hurt because your present husband wasn't like going to war and battle for you. Can you imagine if two women were in this situation?
it would never happen.
Because
They'd kill
we
each
are
other.
so emotional, and men do an excellent job of separating that at times.
And Englishmen in particular, like they are particularly kind of reserved. But so I think for me, it really solidified, like, if that's all you've got for me, yep, this is definitely not the right choice for sure. And I will tell you, my husband now is not that guy. Like,
Oh, he
somebody
would.
can just look at me some kind of way and he's got a lot to say. He's like, I don't know. He is super jealous. He is hilariously jealous.
But
And
that's a
I'm
good
like,
thing. Don't you think there's always a healthy
that's what he
jealousy?
says.
There's a
He's
healthy
like,
jealousy.
it is, and I do think it's a healthy level of jealousy. Like,
Yes.
I have male friends and he doesn't try to stop that. But at the same time, like, he gets a little jealous. He's like, "That hug looked a little long." I'm like, "Psst, we've been friends for 25 years. If I was looking to be with that, I'd have already been with it. You're
Yeah.
fine."
But sometimes, if you, as a woman, I can totally relate, Michelle. You want to hear those. And in your, in your little inside, you're like, oh, okay.
I'm worth fighting
babe.
for.
Uh-huh. I heard you, baby. I
Absolutely.
got you.
That's right. I'm pretty. Somebody else might want me. Okay.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And it makes you feel like, all right, that means you looking from the side of your eye, you observing and you paying attention. It makes a woman feel all, nice on the inside.
I would agree. It does for me. I know for some people it doesn't. And I know some people have managed to move past and, transcend all jealousy, and God bless them for it. But I am not there. And I like to
what?
feel like I put a ring on that. It's mine.
I think it's the complacency. Am I using the correct word?
Complacency.
Complacency. When we enter into a relationship and we forget that little things like this are healthy little sparks. That's why I'm saying healthy jealousy is good.
Yeah.
He's probably saying that in a good way, just to, let me tell her a little something, that's to get her rowdied up and just to let her know my presence is still here and I'm paying attention. But we don't say that because we get all caught up in our feelings and stuff like that. And some people might take that hug and twist it in their mind, say, I saw how long she was hugging him, so now I'm going to give her an attitude the rest of the day. For what?
Yeah. No.
You know what
He
I'm
just
saying? You
straight up
see how
says
we
it.
can turn that into a negative? So I appreciate your husband for doing that because I'm the type of
Me too.
woman I want to hear shit like that. Tell me a little something because that, maybe you might get some tonight, babe, if you say something like that.
I don't know. Is it on the schedule, Shirley? Because,
I can add it to the schedule once I know you really
pencil
looking
that
at me.
in.
Yeah, let me pencil that in tonight. I'm telling you, I'm that girl. But go ahead. Okay, so now you moved to England, and
I went back to England, and we moved in together. And then a few years later, we finally got married, and then we made babies, and that's it. We've been together since 2008. Been together 13 years.
And Phil came to the wedding, right?
He wasn't able to make it at the last minute. He was planning to come. We We got married in Jamaica, and he had, like, booked
Oh,
his room at the resort and everything, and just last minute, something came up with work, and he couldn't make it, and he was really bummed. But, Phil is now super happy and poly, and so he has, like, I think 5 different girlfriends around the country, including one that's here local, and when he comes to town to visit her, we have lunch, and yeah. He is the nicest guy I have ever known in my life. Hating my ex-husband would be like hating puppies. Like, it's just not.
Phil would be an interesting person for me to interview because did you just tell me Phil has 5 different girlfriends?
I think so. I think that's what he said. Like, I try not to get too much up in his personal business
But
because
I
I feel like
guess
that's weird for the
with
ex-wife. Do you know what I mean? Like,
that I mean, like, I guess with that whole attitude, like, all right, I could see Phil
yeah,
doing something like that. You know what I'm saying?
he does not have a jealous bone in his body for sure.
So
For
you
sure.
then you know what? Poly is good for him because when you have
Mhm.
5 different girlfriends, you can't.
Yeah. And
I
he
would
seems
love to.
happy and
They know. Oh, you know what? You don't know anymore. Oh my gosh, 5. I, these are special types of women because it couldn't be me.
Mhm.
I'm too
Mhm.
jealous. I can't. It doesn't like. No, that wouldn't work for me. Okay, so very interesting, girl. Very
Mhm.
interesting. Wow. And they're still friends. The maturity level these guys have, it awes me. It really does. And that's like a good thing. But I guess it goes with Phil's personality because
Yeah.
Giles is not set up that way.
But he also knows that Phil would never make a move. Like, I would have to get naked and mount him for him to notice that I was trying to hit on him.
Oh, so okay.
So, Jai's like, it makes it really easy,
I
do you know what I
see.
mean, for him to and there's no question that as much as I respect, adore, and love my ex-husband, I really don't wanna try to live with him. And I definitely don't wanna
Again,
try to yeah, no, nope, 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 nope. He does great in California with me in Texas. Like, I think that's a really good
good. That's
mhm,
good.
yeah,
So
yeah,
now my question for you as we continue some of these questions here,
mhm,
what are your thoughts on casual sex or friends with benefits? And let me ask that. I remember you said you are bisexual. Is that
mhm.
something you and your husband, I don't remember if you answered this. Do you still engage in that presently or now since you like are a new mama that's put on hold?
So, I mean, for me, bisexuality just means that I'm equally attracted to men and women. And so it's more luck than judgment that I happen to be married to a guy. But
Oh,
I'm still in
okay.
a monogamous relationship. So I nothing but my husband. But if we ever quit being together and Lord willing, that is not on the cards. Absolutely. I've already told him that, like, if it doesn't work out, I'm switching teams full stop and going
Oh,
full
okay.
girl.
Okay.
So,
Gotcha.
that absolutely so that for me is where that is. In terms of casual sex and friends with benefits, I think that I don't have a problem with it as long as everybody is upfront with what it is.
Mhm.
So when I was single, I had a lot of casual sex. And was perfectly fine with that. I even had sex with married men. And my
Did
take
you
on that
know?
yes, ma'am. And my take on that was I didn't make a promise to their wife. I wouldn't want to be married to him, but you know. And it was never a relationship. Like it was never that if he was gonna step out, he was gonna step out. It was me or somebody else. At least I wasn't trying to, take her kids or her life or anything. Like, I knew exactly what it was, and that was fine.
So I have to ask you, okay, so now you
Mhm,
need to educate me on that thinking because now I've had casual sex in the past,
mhm,
and I think casual sex in a healthy way is a good thing. It
mhm.
offers experience. I do believe just going into a relationship with only being one man, you don't have anything to compare it to. And
I
it
would
can
agree.
be both a negative and a positive, and everyone's different. So we don't
Yep,
have to agree, listeners.
mhm,
You may
yep,
save yourself for that one person, that's great. But I believe in you got to test the waters so you
I
know
would
what's
agree.
out there. Now, I never have been the type of person to be interested in someone who's in any relationship. Even when Khalif and I were younger and we were friends with benefits, as soon as he got into a relationship, I said, call me when that's over because I want no part of it. So now, in your sense, you and I are opposites in that thought process. When you were having casual sex, you didn't mind. So help me understand, why didn't you mind?
Well, so here's the thing. If I had been in your shoes, right, and
Mm-hmm.
Khalif got a girlfriend and then wanted to carry on being friends with benefits with me, that would have immediately meant that he and I were never gonna be anything else. I would
Okay.
not be married to him because to me, that is somebody who obviously does not honor their commitment.
Okay.
So, I'm not interested in that.
Okay.
But the wives or partners of the people that I slept with that were in committed relationships, I wasn't the one that made a commitment to them. So I owed them nothing. Would I sleep with my girlfriend's husband? No, because that's a dick move because I have separate commission like I do owe her something as my friend, as her friend. But
Mm-hmm.
woman I've never met before and your husband hits on me and I'm single and I'm interested, yeah, no, I'm not gonna care that he's married to you. Am I ever gonna date him or be emotionally invested? No. So, I remember really clearly at one point, there was a guy that was like my Wednesday afternoon shag, and he was married. And we were finishing up one day, and he was like, "Hey, my wife's out of town tonight. What do you want to go get dinner?" And I was like, "No, I've got a date." And he was like, I'm sorry,
He was
you
shocked
what?"
you said that, huh?
I was like, "I've got a date. What are you talking about?" And he was like, "I, you, you date?" And I was like, "Yeah, because I date. What did you think this was?" And he was like, "Well, I thought we were," and I was like, "No."
Exclusive? Bitch, you married.
That's right. I was like, "Are you high? I'm not that girl." Like, "No. I know what this is. I'm not sitting around thinking one day he's gonna leave her and we'll have no.
Okay.
Fuck that. Like, you wanna
That's
have some hot afternoon sex? Sure, why not?
so
It's me or
that's
some other chick,
that's
but,
the
like,
difference.
I'm not I'm not trying to be a mistress. I'm not trying to be your girlfriend on the side. No, no.
Okay, so this is enlightening for me because we both, as you know, I think I told you, we
Yeah,
both
yeah, you guys
cheated
have
on
both
each
cheated.
other.
Yeah.
Now, I heard the same response from his, okay, so the person who he cheated on me with had given me the same response of, I wasn't thinking about you, but the difference is the emotional investment.
That
She
yeah.
became emotionally invested where you separated the two. It's kind
Yeah.
of like, and I'm not, no disrespect, Michelle, but it's
Yeah,
kind of
no.
like the same thing as the Bunny Ranch in Vegas. You
Mhm,
know, these husbands, because majority of the ones that are going to the Bunny Ranch are married men.
mhm.
And these girls, the only difference between you and them, or I guess they were being paid for
Mine
their
was free.
services. Yeah, yours was free. Okay, so it's the emotional investment that
Mhm.
these women are making, and they have to realize, like, this man is married. Think about what you're doing here. Like, really? You really think he gonna leave his wife for you? Just get
They
the
never do.
sex and keep on going. And you're right. So you educated me today into realize that number 1, you never know what these married men are doing, and number 2, it's the emotional investment that is
Mhm.
huge, that's the difference.
And really, from my perspective for the woman, like, that's about protecting yourself. Like,
Mhm,
don't go get like, he is this person is invested in this relationship, literally financially invested,
mhm,
as well as legally, emotionally, and everything else, invested in this other relationship. You're just a new set of boobs. Like,
mhm.
don't get ahead of yourself. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
And don't get me wrong, like the guy that I'm talking about that thought I was somehow exclusive, he was a tremendously nice guy and he was smart and he was funny because I wouldn't have been getting naked with him if he wasn't. Like,
Uh-huh,
good looking and willing is not enough for me. I need to like you enough to not want to punch you in the face. Do you know what I mean?
gotcha.
So like he was if he had been single, I absolutely would have been interested in dating him, but he wasn't. So for me, that just made a really clear, really hard line between where this can ever go.
Okay.
Um, but In a single relationship, if you're single and not in a relationship, I'm absolutely a fan of casual sex as long as you're safe and as long as everybody is honest about what it is. I think communication is the key.
Nice. I'm glad you shared that because it enlightened me to realize number one, two completely like, even though we agree with friends with benefits or casual sex, whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
we saw it differently. Where I was like, nope, we're not doing that. Girlfriend married. I'm not stepping into that world. Where you, even though the guy was married, you didn't have a problem with it.
Yep.
And that's interesting because I don't know how to separate the emotion. And I think
And
that's what would have been hard for me. And I think that's why I immediately cut it off because if I decide to get in bed with you, for me, too many emotions are going to be involved. So if I have an issue separating that, Michelle, I need to cut it off right from the start.
And that is really good self-awareness, and that is what most people are lacking. Because right now, like, the only education we get when we're young people about sex is the mechanics,
Mm-hmm.
right? We know you insert, tab A into slot B, and you should probably put a condom on it. Like, that's about as much as we get. And what we don't talk about, what we don't get is, okay, so then now what? What does that do to you as a human? What does that mean? What is the emotion and the responsibility around that act? And what kind of conversations, like, my conversation with my boys is gonna be, if you're not big enough to talk about it, you're not big enough to do it.
Exactly. I
If
totally
you
agree.
can't have an open and honest conversation without giggling and getting embarrassed, then you don't need to go put that anywhere.
I totally agree.
And that's like, I am a big believer in that, and I think that if everybody took that philosophy, knew themselves, knew where they were about things, and had an open dialogue, A, we'd all feel a lot better,
Mm-hmm.
and B, it would just makes everybody's life a lot easier that way. Like, it's so much healthier.
You're right. And it's major self awareness. And I guess that's the difference where I guess there's no wrong in it because now it makes me realize is women who do that separate the two. No emotions. It's just sex. That's it. Like you were dating other people. And actually, the guy was the one that was like, what? You dating? What? What? This is like a
Yeah.
total shock to him.
I thought you were my girl.
I thought,
No.
yeah, my one and only.
No.
No, boo boo.
See that ring
No.
on your finger? No.
and
No.
and that's the issue because these women get into these relationships getting allowing themselves to get caught up emotionally thinking that oh you're going to leave your wife for me. I never told you that. I'm inserting my penis into your vagina. We are having fun for the night. Anything beyond that?
Yeah.
Did I tell you anything more?
And my husband and I have talked about, what happens if somebody cheats and that sort of thing. And I think, when we first got together, we were both jealous and we had
Hmm.
just come out of, what we came out of. And we both were like, if you cheat on me after I cut it off, it will be over. And now, honestly, we're in this place where I'm like, if you cheat on me, I'm going to be pissed. I mean, I'm going to be really pissed. Is it gonna be over? Probably not. I mean, it'll depend. Like, if you're not sorry, you're gonna go do it again, then yeah, it'll be over. But if you do something stupid,
Hmm.
right? If we go through one of those rocky periods that every marriage goes through, and you're out with your friends and you get drunk, or you don't even get drunk, you just get emotionally caught up in being excited about somebody being excited about you,
Hmm.
which I think is intoxicating for anybody, right? Like, when you're in that place in your marriage where you don't feel seen and you don't feel desired and you don't feel heard, and somebody else comes along and makes you feel like you're the center of their goddamn world for a minute, girl, that is how you wind up in the sheets like that. Even though you love your husband or you love your wife, that's how it happens. And he and I both acknowledge that we are humans and we are weak, and that if that moment comes, we're going to work through it. You don't get to make that mistake twice. but we're going to work through it. And what that means is that there's something broken in us and we need to fix that. And I'm not willing to pack in everything we have in our life and our kids and everything else because you screwed up one time
I
and got
agree.
caught up in being worshiped, because being worshiped feels great.
I agree 100%. And that's the same reason why we both stepped out, because we were missing something. That's normally the reason why is there's something missing in your relationship. There is a disconnect, and the
Yeah.
communication is not, we're not having the communication that we need to have. We're not making love or doing what we need to do. Someone else in another location is giving me that attention that I am not getting from my present relationship. So I'm going to suck all that in. I agree with you. One thing I want to end before we end part 2 today is, what do you have to say out there to people who are in relationships such as yourself, experience, as we know, we both come from different worlds of experience, but we see things very similarly.
Mhm.
But for couples who are together, who either face a traumatic situation such as cheating, what do you have to say? Especially like when you enlightened me today about, you legitimately said on air you were sleeping with a married man, but you were not emotionally connected. Where
Mhm.
me, it's not something I would do because I already know too many emotions would be involved for me. So I'm cutting it before it starts off.
So I'll give you an example. We have a really good friend
Mm-hmm.
who met his longtime partner on a swinging website.
Mm-hmm.
And he knew, right, that he can't keep it in his pants, that he needs a lot of variety sexually
Mm-hmm.
to stay interested. And she felt the same way, and they were great and going for it. And then something changed for her, and she had some mental health issues, and she said, "This is not good for my self-esteem and where I am. I need us to be monogamous." And he said,
It's a lot for
"Okay,
him.
I'm gonna try it." And so he did, and he wasn't able to be monogamous. He
Mm-hmm.
stepped out,
Mm-hmm.
and then she got mad. And then he stepped out. I think he's cheated now. I don't even know, like 9, 10 different women over the
Mm-hmm.
time. And she doesn't leave, and she
Mm.
keeps getting mad. And my response to her is, "Well, then you're actually the problem." I mean, he is operating under the rules that you set out at the beginning of this relationship. You changed the rules. And now you're mad that he hasn't stopped being the person that he was when you made the first rules.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't be with that person anymore, that's okay. I don't judge you. I don't dislike you. I understand. I couldn't be that person. But then you need to stand up for you
Mm-hmm.
and say, the person that I now realize that I am cannot keep being with the person that you are and be healthy.
Exactly.
And I think that that is what I would say to couples that are going through trouble, is you need to see, is this about who I am and who they are? Or is this about our behaviors? Because you can change behavior, but you can't change a leopard can't change its spots, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you are just fundamentally in your core a human being that needs to have sex 5 times a day to feel satisfied sexually, and your partner is somebody who needs to have sex twice a month to feel satisfied sexually, you can't change that.
Exactly.
You can try all kinds of shit to find workarounds and things you can do and blah, 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 but you can't change that. So when you're going through some kind of a crisis or a problem with your partner, that's what you got to do. You got to step it back and see, is this about who we are or about how we act? And then if it's about who we are, is there something we can do? Like, is there, like we say in HR, like, is there a reasonable accommodation that
Reasonable
I can make
accommodation.
for you, right? Like, okay, is it you need to come 5 times a day? Great. Well, you can probably take care of a few of those yourself. Am I right? Like,
Exactly.
so, or is it that you need to have whatever. So have those kind of those conversations, but I think that people get so spun up in their own hurt and their own anger, and they treat it like everything is the end of the world. Behaviors, I mean, ultimately, changing your behaviors is not that it's not brain science. It's not rocket science, right? It's not brain surgery. You
Mhm.
just stop doing that. And sometimes you're going to need to be reminded and it's going to be a process, but it's just not that freaking complicated. And
Mhm.
if you're not even willing to change behaviors to stay in a relationship, then you are not invested in this relationship.
Exactly. I totally agree, Michelle. Thank you very much. One thing that as we end today with our phenomenal guest who is very well rounded in both the relationship world and also the human resources world too. If you ever have a human resources question, Miss Human Resources past director could definitely give you a little education on that as well. But one thing that is consistent is change. Change is consistent. People change.
Always.
And we
Mhm.
need to be mindful of that with the great example she just gave us. Always check yourself first before checking somebody else. Because if you are in a relationship, situational ship, whatever you're in, that has changed, or it's not something you want to be a part of anymore, you need to check yourself and ask yourself, is this something that I could really truly be a part of? Because if it's not, then you need to be the one that steps away. If your partner is not willing to make the change or it's hard for them to make the change, because anything learned can be unlearned, and we all know that.
Yeah.
And we know how hard it is to change ourselves. So, unless someone really wants to change, no matter who you are in their life, what role you play in their life, they're not going to do shit for you unless they want to.
Mhm.
And if you can't adapt and figure out how to make it work as a team, then you need to step away.
I think going off that, one of my favorite, one of the quotes that my husband and I say at each other to help us in
Mhm.
those moments is Jada Pinkett Smith,
I know her. I
turn to
love her.
Will. Oh my, how can you not? But one of the things she said to Will was, "I am not responsible for your happiness." And I
Absolutely.
think that everybody falls into those traps. Like, you're not making me happy. You're not doing this for me. And my husband and I, when we catch the other one doing that, we call him, I am not responsible for your happiness.
That is absolutely correct. No one is responsible for your happiness. No one is responsible for your well being. Your partner is a bonus when they choose to acknowledge things. And I'm going to give a simple example. You know, your manicure and pedicure, that's your responsibility. It is a bonus if your husband or your significant other, regardless man or woman, decides to pay for it or schedule it or,
Mhm.
do anything. But
Or come
you,
with you or
exactly.
yeah.
But that's your responsibility. You want a massage, freaking book it. Why are
Mhm.
you waiting for someone to do it for you? But that's just a simple example that I'm doing is no one's responsible for your happiness or your
No.
well-being.
You wanna dance more in your life? Go take a freaking dance class.
Exactly.
Quit waiting
Exactly.
on your partner to say he wants to go. That's not his fault, that's
And if
yours.
if he or she does not want to, it is okay.
That's right.
So we will end today with part two. If you have not listened to part one, definitely go check it out. Awesome, awesome conversations the two of us have, which is, I hope it's going to be enlightening for couples out there. Open up your eyes, wake up. We have to change all these taboo conversations that people don't want to have and realize that relationships are really always not cut and dry and easy. They're freaking hard as hell. It takes a lot of intention. I had an interview with somebody that said, take out the work because usually people like to associate work as a negative. Relationships take serious intention.
I like that. I like
Yes,
that.
serious intention. So, pay attention to your partner, and things are always not going to be cut and dry as the world tries to make it seem. There's going to be rough patches, and communication is important to realize how to get off those bumpy roads. Michelle's information will be available on the website. She does have a podcast herself, and is the name of the podcast is I Want Your Job?
Hey. I want your job.
Hey, I want your job. And I will be a special guest on that
Yes,
podcast.
you will.
I cannot wait. I am super excited, but all her information will be on her on the website for her podcast. And also, if you ever have a human resources question, reach out to Homegirl, because she can definitely give you some advice, especially relationship questions too. But as we always end, love yourself, voice yourself, be yourself. To the next podcast, guys. Have a great day. Thanks for tuning in to Fanpale Podcast. If you want to continue the conversation or share your takeaways, I want to hear from you. Head on over to the website or join our Facebook community and comment your favorite part of the show or share your thoughts. I want to hear what you have to say. Don't forget to rate and subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Chat with you next week.